Welcome to Good Follow presented by DraftKings. I'm Megan Reyes. Alongside me today is Logan Hackett and Katie Novotny. Katie, it's been a couple weeks since we've seen you. How have you been?
I've been fantastic. I gave myself a little Midwest reset. So I went home to Chicago, ate some hot dogs, burned a Christmas tree in the backyard, played some pickleball, saw and went into a lake. It was really something. People were nice to me. It was crazy. It was crazy.
Did you see any cows?
I didn't see any cows, but I didn't go too far into Wisconsin. So sometimes.
Well, I know that over the weekend, Logan, you were at the U.S. women's national team match against Mexico. And at the match, the 1999 Women's World Cup team was honored for the 25th anniversary of winning said World Cup. How was it?
It was so good. But first, Katie, I have to ask, are you on the floor right now?
Yes, I am a floor person. I'm a floor person through and through.
I'm such a floor person. It just makes you feel grounded and at peace. I feel like I'm never happier than when I am on the floor. I just wish I could do everything on the floor. Back to the game, I honestly was on the floor at one point and dripping sweat because it was so hot. Red Bull Arena, it was hot outside and the traffic was crazy and I had to walk there, so I was already sweating. But the arena was probably, or the field, maybe 10 degrees hotter than actually outside. When we were doing pregame and taking pictures of them in the anthem and everything, I was physically dripping with sweat and it was disgusting. But the game itself was pretty good.
Now imagine how the players felt. You were just taking pictures on the pitch, pre-match, post-match. The players actually had to run around for 90 minutes.
Did you have a sweat towel? You got to bring your sweat towel in those situations.
I wish, and it was actually really hard to find cold water. But I was just constantly the poor penny, whoever needs that one next, I hope they wash them. But I was blotting myself off and just trying to get to an equilibrium where I felt okay.
I know somewhere else that it was also hot was in DC earlier this week when the U.S. women's national team played Costa Rica in their Olympic send-off game. Let's talk about it as they head into the Olympics. I have a couple thoughts, and then Logan, I'd love to hear yours. I know one storyline that a lot of people are talking about in the 0-0 draw against Costa Rica. The U.S. had a lot of chances. They had 26 shot attempts and 12 shots on goal, but they were still scoreless. One thing that I do want to bring up for people that are panicking, because I think there are a subsection of U.S. women's soccer fans that are panicking. I recently started following this TikTok account, Casey's on the Case. Casey is a lawyer who also very perfectly breaks down women's soccer for the TikTok universe. And she had a couple really great videos that I think really summed up what happened yesterday. And one of them being that the midfield was kind of okay. Lindsey Horan had an okay game, and so they weren't creating a lot of chances for Trinity and Mal to score goals. But also that, we shouldn't panic because they're still learning. Emma Hayes has only had about 6 or 7 weeks with this team before they go to the Olympics. They're learning a lot of new runs. They're going to be okay. And I think 12 shots on goal and yet still being scoreless is something to certainly have a question mark about, but the goals are going to come. They just need some time to learn from Emma and learn from one another. I would like to know, Logan, what were your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, you actually mentioned people kind of freaking out. I also think a part to that is that we're going into the Olympics. It's huge. No one wants to miss it. So I don't think everyone's really playing at 100%. That'd be kind of crazy. I mean, Corey Bethune, when she got on the field, she was going. You could tell she was at 100% or close to 100 because she's an alternate. But I think everyone else, they're still kind of trying to play it safe. But Trinity has really been impressing me along with the forward line. I think with Costa Rica, they had 8 players in the box at all time. It was just they were defending everything and the goalie played really well. But I don't know.
Wait, I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay, this might be a dumb question because I don't know enough about the soccer people, but is Trinity Rodman who I think she is?
She is. Yes, she is. I will say, though, I think it is important to note for new fans, and I'm actually really glad you asked this. I think it's important to note for new fans to women's soccer that she is his daughter, and she comes to games wearing his shirts with his face on it. She also is very adamant at separating herself from being Dennis Rodman's daughter. And also just being Trinity Rodman herself. Right. I know that she doesn't necessarily like to associate herself as like, oh, Dennis Rodman's daughter, Trinity. She is her own person. But yes, that is her dad, as you said.
I mean, that's freaking
Miss Chicago
sick.
Herself. I think that is a very important tie. It's very cool.
And I don't know. I mean, obviously, everyone is allowed to be their own person, but like it's cool in my opinion, because I just love seeing when like a father-daughter athleticism is passed down. Like, I think that's sick. And the fact that it's in a completely different sport, like the talent, I just think that's great. I just love it. How fun.
Actually, speaking, still on the topic of Trinity, her footwork, I think, has improved. The whole team's footwork. I feel like Emma really had them doing like shuffle drills or something, because I did notice that their footwork has gotten a lot better. But they were running a play, and I'm not too sure if like maybe I just wasn't seeing it before, but they would like chip the ball up to like one of the forwards, and it would be a sprinting race to go get it. It was working with Mexico. I'm not too sure if I saw it as much with Costa Rica, but their problem is finishing in the box. If it's not for not being able to finish in the box, they would be scoring so many goals because they're winning every race.
Well, I think one of the things that people are perhaps a little bit concerned about is not finishing in the box, especially as we do head to the Olympics next week. And the groups and the talent in this year's Olympics are stacked. 7 of the 12 qualifying nations are ranked in FIFA's top 10. So in the U.S. group stage, they are facing 5th ranked Germany, 12th ranked Australia, and Zambia, who shouldn't be overlooked because they do have Barbara Banda and Rachel Kunda-Nanji, both very impactful players for their NWSL clubs. So Logan, how much do you think the U.S. will struggle if they can't find a way to finish and score?
This is where the defense is going to come into play. And they're actually lucky because Germany and Australia, against high caliber teams, they're not scoring that much. So it's not like they're playing. I think if they had Spain, then it would kind of be like starting to worry. But I think those are going to be really close games. They do have to watch out for Barbara Banda, because if she's scoring in the NWSL as much as she is, I mean, she's pretty much going up against the same players. So they have to come up with some type of customized plan for her. But I think as long as they can score more, like one more than the other team, so it'd be like 1-0 games the whole time, then I think it'll be fine. But yeah, I don't know. What do you think about it?
I do think you are correct, and we will be relying on our defense. Jenna Neiswanger didn't play in the match against Costa Rica for reasons like load management for the Olympics. She will also be huge. Tierna Davidson has been huge for the U.S. as well. And I think it's also important to note that Barbara Banda is really prolific in NWSL, and then she also has teammates around her like Marta that she may not have to rely on during the Olympics when she's with Zambia. Now, for our Goodfellow audience, those that may not know, Logan is a dual Australian and Canadian citizen, 2 teams who are playing in this Olympics. So let's start with Australia. Logan, they actually lost to the U.S. in the bronze medal match in the 2020 Olympics. And I'm sure they will be looking for some redemption this year, but they are still without Sam Kerr, who is Australia's all-time leading goal scorer for both men and women. So how do you think Australia will do this year, or do you think they'll struggle without Sam?
I think they're going to do well. I don't even know if other Australians are like tripping about this. There's no reason to trip. I mean, we saw the team in the World Cup without her. They went like a majority of the way. She wasn't in the game, and they did absolutely fine. They were playing hard teams. It was great. And I think that World Cup is actually important going into the Olympics because they're riding off that momentum still. It was such an amazing time for the country. It brought everyone together. Like the Matildas were at the center of Australia at the moment. They probably still are. And it was so great. So I think they're just trying to level up on that. And they're playing for Australia, not to medal or win the Olympics.
So let's lean into your Canadian side. We can't end this discussion about the Olympics without talking about Canada. gold medal winners in Tokyo 2020, and they have 13 of their players returning to defend their gold medal, and they would be the first team to go back-to-back if they do it again this year. So what can we expect out of Canada?
Canada, let me just say this before I start. I love you. I live here. I'm here right now. Great country. Beautiful, beautiful. I don't think we're running it back. I'm so sorry. I'm shocked that we won last year. We have a good team. Don't get me wrong. Everything's good. Great. We won. Yay. But this year, I just don't get the same vibes. I didn't really get them last year, but I don't know. I'm not confident. We have Kaylin, great net. We have the players. I just think when it comes to kind of getting the job done, especially in the friendlies that we've been seeing, it hasn't really been there, and it's gotten really close. Like, a lot of their games have gone to penalty kicks, or I think they just lost to US and CONCACAF in penalty kicks. So we can't be a team that makes it get to that point and is like, oh, we won before, so let's see if we can win again in this moment. I think we need like another year or two, or maybe 4. Maybe we'll try again in LA.
Logan, before we go, are there any other teams or storylines we should be aware of before the Olympics kick off?
I do want to mention Spain. I think they have a really good shot. They won the World Cup. They beat France in the Nations League finals. Internal changes, but the players are incredibly skilled front to back. They're so fun to watch, and they've kind of been through this before, probably the most recent out of all the teams, like a big win. So I think we really need to watch out for them because they're going to come in hot.
Women's football or women's soccer, depending on where you live in the world, kick off at the Olympics next week, and I can't wait to tune in. Coming up after the break, Logan and I sit down with WNBA analyst LaChina Robinson to preview this weekend's WNBA All-Star game. Welcome back into Good Follow. Joining us now to discuss this weekend's WNBA All-Star is WNBA analyst LaChina Robinson. LaChina, it's so great to have you on the show. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful, Megan. It's good to be here with you guys, talking a little WNBA, my favorite topic. So let's get after it.
Okay, first up, let's talk format. This is the first year where the women's national team will be playing the All-Star team. So what excites you most about this unique Olympic year All-Star game format?
Yeah, we've seen similar formats in Olympic years in the past where they've tried to use All-Star as an opportunity for our USA national team to kind of brush up on some things. What I think is so unique with the WNBA and the format of the Olympics is it happens during the season. And I don't know how many sports that applies to. So as you can imagine, the national team doesn't have a lot of practices leading up, not as many as they would like, leading up to the Olympic Games. So I really think this is a unique opportunity for basketball fans both to take in our Olympic team a little early and get to scout that group, but also to get to celebrate this year's WNBA All-Star. So it should be fun, but it'll be very competitive. For some reason, this particular format, when it involves the Olympic team, just brings out the best in everyone. So I guess that's a good thing.
Oh, I love that. I'm so excited to watch it. And the roster for All-Star was revealed a few weeks ago. We found out which players will be taking on the national team. What matchups are you most excited to see head to head?
Oh, goodness. Well, first and foremost, as you guys probably already know, no one really plays defense in the All-Star game. So when we say matchup, it's like, okay, who's going to make more shots than the other player? It's really all about the WNBA All-Stars for me because I'm super excited about the rookies, in particular, obviously, Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, and how they will perform in front of the bright lights, especially with all the expectations that they came into the season with and how well they're playing now. So what is their approach, right? Like, sometimes I come to All-Star and there are a couple vets that are like warming up and stretching and they get all into it and get competitive. And then you learn who the folks are over time who just come in and like, listen, I'm going to sit over here and eat some popcorn on the sideline. So I want to see what personality these rookies take on. but also just the veterans like Nneka Gumake and Dearica Hamby, who's having an outstanding season. Kayla McBride, who's someone who's worked really hard over the years in this league and just doesn't get her just due, but is playing really well for the Minnesota Lynx. So it's just really time for us to appreciate all of the players, but in particular on Team WNBA All-Stars. Like, I really want to see how that group approaches the challenge, because you're playing against the best team in the world, right? So who doesn't want to see how they match up, and who doesn't want to get a win over our U.S. women's national team, who's going for their unprecedented 8th straight gold medal? Like, you beat them, and that should mean something.
Right. I agree. Especially made up of, well, 2 rookies, but some rookies. And if you can beat that team, and like you said, a lot of expectation and pressure, you do that. Like, that's gold too.
Yeah. But it's all fun and games at the end of the day. Like, I say that now because we're approaching it from a matchup standpoint, but in reality, it's like, is anyone going to dunk? Who's going to score the most points? Like, all those things actually really matter in the All-Star game.
Who do you think is going to bring like the energy and is just there to have a good time?
Here to have a good time. Kelsey Plum. Okay.
Yeah.
Kelsey Plum is there to have a good time. Now that she has gotten her MVP, she won MVP of the All-Star game the year it was in Chicago. So she's taking care of her business. She's got that on her resume. She'll be acting a fool. Chelsea Gray will be having some fun because she'll be getting the fancy passes in and, just making everybody look crazy. She likes to fake like she's passing it, but really doing, so she'll get the crowd involved in it. BG's silly. She'll be having a good time. See, my only concern is if Cheryl Reeve, who's the head coach of the U.S. national team, is like, all right, guys, we're going to run these plays. We're going to run this like a real game. That could take some of the fun out of it. So in that case, Team All-Star will be having all the fun. Okay? That's going to be it. Like, it will be no fun for the Olympic team if they have to approach this game in that manner. And as far as Team All-Star, I really see Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark having a lot of fun. That's one thing I think gets lost in all of this, is while all of these eyes are on the WNBA, in particular, really on the rookies and how they're going to perform, and people are fighting online, and it gets nasty. Okay? It gets really nasty out here. But lost in that is that they both have really fun personalities. And I hope that this, even though they'll want to be competitive, will allow them the forum to really show who they are and have a good time and laugh and really, really bring that aspect of their game to the forefront.
So the WNBA All-Star in recent years has definitely gotten some flack for almost too much fun. It's like they're kind of maybe not taking it too seriously and the game gets a little bit boring. In your opinion, do you have concerns that may be the same here with it being sort of a practice for the national team, or are we going to be all business?
I really believe it'll be all business. Like, there might be a couple of players, like to your last question, that'll just be kind of having a good time. But something tells me that this game is going to be for keeps. Like, and again, just mentioning the fact that it is our national team, that you want that on your resume, you want that respect in the streets. I think WNBA Team All-Star is going to bring it. I really do. But I don't really think the WNBA All-Star game has ever been as non-competitive, if that's a word, as the men's All-Star. Like, it's never felt that loose and that like carefree. Like, these women are actually trying to do something, like even if that's entertain. No disrespect to the guys, but like they're showing up to to really try to put on for the fans either way.
And you mentioned the fans. There's a lot of them who are new to the league this year. They know the legends, they know this year's rookies, but which players do you think are still flying under the radar and could make an impact?
Alyssa Thomas, number one. And those of us who watched the MVP race last season, we know who she is, but her name still flies under the radar. She's a point forward for the Connecticut Sun. She led the league in total assists and total rebounds last year. She's 6'2", playing like a hybrid, every position on the floor. She's just really tough, and her game isn't pretty. It's not sexy. And that's why I think she gets lost in the headlines. But you won't find a tougher player, a stronger player, one that competes harder between the lines than she does. And let's be honest, Connecticut's always one of the top teams in the league. And it is on the shoulders, literally, of Alyssa Thomas. Like, she's an outstanding player, and she'll be in the MVP mix again this year. But it's time that people start giving her the respect that she deserves.
Do you think she can come into All-Star and put up a triple-double?
You know what? That's actually a good question. I would like to see someone put up a triple-double in the All-Star game. I don't know that that's ever been done.
Yeah,
but
that's what I was
if
thinking.
it was going to be done, Logan, I like where you're going here. Because if it is going to be done, it would be this year. Because you have Alyssa Thomas, who's the all-time leader in triple-doubles. You have Sabrina Ionescu, who's, I'm sure, not too far behind her. You got Caitlin Clark that just notched her first career triple-double. And I'm sure Chelsea has maybe at least one, maybe Jackie. I'm trying to remember everyone that may have one. But this game, if any, if it hasn't happened, and I would have to go back and look at the record books, would be the kind of game where it could, for sure.
Oh, I hope we see it.
Yes, that would be dope. What do y'all think? Who are you looking forward to playing? Shoot, I'm talking enough. Who are y'all looking forward to watching?
I'm honestly just, like looking for, I love how fun and also kind of serious it is. I was at All-Star in Chicago a few years ago, and the players are having so much fun, and they're just like going back and forth. They start dancing at one point, and the next thing you know, it's like there's a serious moment there. So I think I'm excited to watch everyone. I'm keen to see how Kelsey Plum does. Actually, not how she does, but when she got the MVP trophy, it was like the little one.
Oh, yeah, the little trophy.
Yeah, part of me thinks like maybe she actually wants, like, is she going for the big trophy this year? So I think she'd be...
Redemption. Trophy redemption. Have we ever had that, right? That's actually a good thought. I like that. She could. She definitely deserves... I think they delivered her another trophy. I feel like something happened. Someone felt bad for her and got her another
It was such a little like, here you go.
Yeah, it was like... literally, like the size of my lip gloss. Not good.
I do think it is a really fun opportunity, like you said, to see more personality. We had a conversation last week about Angel and Caitlin and just the pressures, and hopefully it's a time for them to just loosen up, have fun. I went to the last All-Star I went to was in Vegas in 2021, and similarly, like, you could see them on the sidelines. I think that's when the popcorn was being eaten on the sidelines.
Yes.
And it's just a great time, especially for a storytelling aspect and for introducing new fans to get people to fall in love with their personalities. We already know that they're great. That's why they're at the All-Star game. But I'm really excited to see more of that.
Yeah, I'm with you. And to be honest, the All-Star game, it's on ABC, it's in prime time. So this is an opportunity for people who maybe have not checked out the WNBA to lock eyes and, okay, this is who this person is, this is who plays for that team. And in those moments, the one thing I hope that is not lost is how fast and athletic these women are. Like, I hope there are enough moments to see, wow, like Kelsey Plum can really hoop. Like, her step back is legit. Or Jewel Lloyd, boy, she makes a lot of moves like Kobe, which she really does. Like, she patents her game after him, or whoever it may be. I hope we still have those moments where there's an opportunity to capture a new fan, and they get to see how much the game of women's basketball has grown between the lines in terms of the speed, the athleticism, all of those things that make basketball so fun to watch.
Okay, well, while we're talking about fans, LaChina, as you know, fan voting increased 600% from last year. In 2023, not a single player received 100,000 votes. But then this year, the top 5 players were all in 6 figures, and Caitlin Clark led the way with over 700,000 votes. Wild times that we live in. Good times, but wild times. How would you like to see the WNBA capitalize on these new fans?
Well, I think we just have to continue to make the game accessible. Make it accessible, make it easy to find, right? Like, let people know when the games are happening, what time, what are the matchups. And then, as you guys know, when you're talking women's sports in general, what are the stories, right? Who are these women? What are the rivalries? I think we just have to be really intentional about those things. Like, don't get crazy, right? Like, you can make incremental changes to not only keep up with where the audience is trending and what they're asking for. Like, I think this year, when they did not stream the preseason game, did you guys see that?
That was insane.
And they had like hundreds of thousands of people on this live stream trying to see Angel Reese's first game. And so those are the kind of things where it's like, okay, that should be easily fixable. Let's figure out the streaming for preseason games. Let's make sure that, fans know how they can watch W games. These blackouts, sometimes that drive us crazy on League Pass, where you think you're about to watch a game, but you're like, okay, why is it blacked out of my area? Right, those things. But I do think the game is more accessible now. You see like CBS and other networks really utilizing their highest platform to broadcast WNBA. And so we're seeing, some improvements, but I think the biggest thing is making it accessible and then just keep letting the players be who they are. I was talking to Skylar Diggins-Smith yesterday, and she was saying, when I came in the league, I felt like we all had to be clones of the same person. You wear this suit. This is how you sit. This is how you talk and laugh, and not to that extent. But we see so much authenticity, so much individuality now. So continue to create avenues for these women to show us who they are. They're fun. They're fashionable. Have y'all seen these tunnel fits?
Insane. I'm so excited for All-Star because of that.
I mean, there has to be so much pressure before every game of like, what am I going to wear? I don't think I could deal with that. Someone would definitely have to organize all that. Do y'all have any favorites of W players so far you've seen?
Nika has been killing it.
Oh,
like, especially as a rookie to come in looking like that. Same with Cam. Cam has been doing really well, Cam Brink. But no, Nika, that's impressive. And she started off with a bang with her shirt and like visa approved.
With the visa approved.
We should have been ready from that moment.
Yes, I love Nika's, and I can't wait for her to actually get some playing time. But Seattle's doing well. But I actually really am loving the style of Skylar Diggins-Smith. Like, everything's tailored, fitted. The glasses are just adding an extra layer. She said she was trying to give like Matrix, and you see it. She's got the metallics, and it's just she's a boss. So I'm loving
the
all
fashion
that.
is so good, and I have so many favorites like Kelsey and Chelsea, but like the stylists are so like. I envy their jobs, but I also don't, because like they have to keep elevating and competing with themselves and competing with the other stylists. But the All-Star game is going to be a fashion All-Star in its own right.
It is.
But I agree with you on Skylar, because I'm a big fan of tailored menswear that's like spun to a feminine side as well.
Yes.
So I love those looks. And she just has the right like look for it too.
Demeanor. Yeah, absolutely. Like, because that is Skylar. She is suited and she's a boss. Like, and that is literally how she shows up. So yeah. So anyway, creating avenues for these women to continue to show us all the parts of who they are. But I'll have to check in with y'all after we see these outfits at All-Star, because the orange carpet is about to be popping for sure.
Oh, I cannot wait. But we talked about Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. They're the first two rookies since 2014 to be named to the All-Star team. And this is the first time that we'll be seeing them play together on the same team, on the same court. What can we expect from the record-breaking rookies playing together instead of on opposite sides of the court?
Hopefully we'll experience some kumbaya from their fans. Like, let's all take a moment just to breathe and get away from the unrest and the upheaval that we've been putting up with.
Amen.
Since they were drafted. That's what I'm really looking forward to. But no, I mean, how their games complement each other will be cool, because what does Caitlin like to do? Pass it. Angel Reese is always making herself available around the bucket. She's rebounding it. She's getting it to her teammates. So how do their games fit each other? They're going to be under some duress to make sure that those two make it on the court together at some point. Those rotations got to somehow spin back to the two of them, because, I mean, can you imagine them in a huddle together? And I don't know if they like each other. Do I think they hate each other? I don't believe they hate each other. But everyone's narratives this whole time has been, they're like, polar. So I can't wait till they're like holding hands. And
I was going to say, wait till there's a picture of them like hugging.
Oh yeah, exactly.
And then we can finally just move on and watch basketball in peace.
Yeah, like here it is. They hug. They're having a good time. They're laughing. They're high-fiving. Everybody just go chill out somewhere.
Okay, LaChina, last question for you before we let you go. Who is winning the 2024 All-Star game?
I'm going to go with Team All-Stars.
Okay.
I'm picking the underdog, right? I don't know what Vegas is saying right now, but I just think that the All-Stars will be playing more loose, more free. Our women's national team's probably going to be stressed out about whether or not they pack their toothpaste in their bags because they're headed to Paris like literally the next day or two after that. They may be a little more restricted, as I mentioned, if they're trying to run some of their plays. But yeah, I'm going with the underdogs.
MVP prediction?
DeWanna Bonner used to play for the Phoenix Mercury. She actually won championships in Phoenix alongside Diana Taurasi, Candice Dupree at one point, Brent Griner. In her return to Phoenix, I think DB is going to go off.
I love that.
I think DeWanna Bonner is going to end up being, I think the Phoenix fans will be happy to see her. She's going to be feeling good. It'll be like a homecoming. Everybody's great, have a good time. But when that ball tips, I believe DeWanna Bonner is going to go for the MVP, which will be an incredible headline. She's the mom of twins. She's got to be at least 35 years old now, maybe 36, and playing at the highest level. Like, so good. And then she'll win All-Star MVP on top of that. And then probably go to Cancun for the next few weeks after that until the season starts back up.
I love that prediction. I love a good story.
That's it. It's DeWanna Bonner all the way.
All right. I like it. Well, LaChina, thank you so much for joining us on Good Follow. It was such an honor. And we're going to have you back. We're going to have to check in on these predictions and see how you did.
Please do. And thank y'all for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, as we know, we are just 1 week away from the opening ceremony for the 2024 Paris Olympics. And in honor of the Games, I sat down with Sakura Kokumai, who is the first and only woman to represent Team USA in karate at the Tokyo 2020 Olympics. Our next guest was the first and only woman to represent the USA in karate at the Tokyo 2020 Olympics. She is also a world champion medalist and a 10-time Pan American champion. Sakura Kokumai, welcome to Good Follow. So let's jump right into it. Tell us about your background, your upbringing, and how did you get into competitive karate?
So I was born in Honolulu, Hawaii. I started karate there. So I was 7 years old, probably did all sports that you can think of at that age. But karate was that one thing that stuck. Probably main reason because we were going back and forth. From Hawaii and Japan, we were traveling back and forth. And karate, we were able to find a place to train in both countries.
What was it like for you to balance both school and your training?
It was hard. It was hard, but at the same time, it was easier in a sense because I decided to go to school in Japan. I did my 4 years of undergrad, 2 years of master's degree in Japan, mainly because I wanted to do karate too. I did want to go to school, whether that was in Hawaii or here on the mainland, but after a good conversation with my parents, they're like, look, if you want to pursue karate at a high level or get better, just do well in it, you have to choose the environment. And unfortunately, in the US, karate is not the best. I wouldn't say not the best place, but it's difficult if you want to pursue academics and sports both at the same time at the highest level. It's hard to do so here. So knowing the system and how it all works, I decided to go to school in Japan. It was hard, because clearly I look Japanese. I can speak the language too. So they assume that I'm full Japanese when I'm not. So culturally, it was really challenging for me to, get along with the other athletes and try to learn all the cultures and etiquettes on the team. But it worked out. It really worked out.
What was the turning point where you felt more comfortable?
Just getting older. I think it's the same everywhere. If you're a freshman, you have to do more, right? But once you get older, if you're like in the senior, once you're older, you get by with certain things. So I didn't have to, like, certain parts, I just got used to it. But at the same time, people, I think, accepted more that I was, like Japanese American. It's a concept that it's challenging for Japanese people to grasp at times. So over time, I think they realized that you can be more than one. And we were able to, I felt comfortable, and I think they felt comfortable too.
What are, if you can share with us, the key differences between kata and the types of karate that we see in movies?
Well, I think it's not as aggressive and loud as they show it on TV. As much as it is aggressive looking, but I think there's like a little hint of like elegance and power. There's like a good balance of elegance and power in karate, which is not portrayed well in the US. And I get it. It's, the movies and TV shows really hyped it up a little bit to show, that commercial side. But karate has two disciplines, kata and kumite. Kumite means basically sparring in Japanese. Kata means forms. So what I do in competition is it's a flow routine where I walk in, perform, and they judge me based off of how well I execute that technique. And I love being able to tell a story through my performance. I love that it showed strength, but it also shows like the softness in it too, if you choose to show that part in the performance. So like a good balance in that.
Looking back at Tokyo 2020, obviously it was a difficult time with the pandemic and a difficult and different training regimen for the Olympians. So what was your training routine like?
Training, I basically trained in a garage most of the time. I moved, I believe, end of 2020 to a different house. So the garage setup, it was like a whole mess, and obviously had all the time in the world. So decided to clean it up, paint the walls, rented out like a karate mat and just put it on the floor. So that's where I trained. I did a lot of online stuff, but a lot of alone time for sure. Like a lot of training just by yourself, just making sure that you don't get sick too and get other people sick at that time. So it was, I think it was keeping that motivation up was challenging.
What did it mean to you to be the first woman to represent the US in karate?
It's interesting because now it's kind of sunk in a little bit, but at that time that was not something that I was thinking about. I was purely focused on obviously qualifying for the Olympics, but also staying consistent with my training so that I can perform once we get there, kind of mentality. At the same time, it's really questionable too, because I was like, where are my girls at? Like when we look at competition, it's a good 50-50. Like, so you have half women, like half men, like competing at the sport. So it's not like the competition itself is not like male dominant in that sense. If you go to a tournament, you'll see both. But when it comes to qualifying, because it's a new sport, we didn't really have that much like brackets or like spots available. So, it was more of, when everything is done, you kind of look over your shoulders and you're like, or you get to the Olympics and you realize that there's no other female athletes there. So it's like, dang, like I want to hang out with all my girls, but you realize that they're not there. It's like, it's all dudes.
What do you think would be key to helping grow the participation of girls and women in karate and mixed martial arts?
Definitely more visibility in the sport, but also showing the authenticity of what that sport really is too. The karate is out there. It's such a universal word that everybody knows what karate is in their own way. There needs to be more like female karate representation out there. The karate that we do as a martial art and sport to get girls interested in it. So visibility is probably a key thing to get the girls going, and just have something so that they can be excited, to continue the sport. Something to be excited about I think is important.
So sort of opposite of that, what was your reaction when you learned that karate was going to be removed from the 2024 and 2028 Olympics?
Upset, shocked, angry, any emotion that you can think of. it's such a huge platform when it comes to the Olympics. Everybody watches the Olympics, everybody tunes in, everybody can recognize that logo. And as an athlete who has been competing nonstop since 14, it felt like that was the first time that we were recognized as athletes in the US. In Japan, karate was, you can get scholarships to go to high school. You can get scholarships to go to college, a full scholarship, right? But here you can't. So I think when it became an Olympic sport, I saw that it changed how people viewed our sport, which was exciting because that's what we all believed in the first place. And we're finally getting recognition for it. And for that to go away because we're not in the Olympics was very, I don't know. It's very sad because, you know, like I'm still competing, right? Like you have a bunch of young athletes that are still traveling around the world and competing and representing the country and representing the sport. But it feels like because we're not in the Olympics, we're not seen as a sport.
So what's next for you competitive wise, and what does a competitive karate career look like beyond just getting to compete in the Olympics every 4 years?
For me personally, we do have world championships every 2 years. So I'm aiming towards that next year. There are a few goals that I still want to like check off my list, and world championships is one of them. So I am focused on that. In terms of career for any other karate athletes, there's still like leagues that's going on. So it's called the Premier League for us. It happens around the world for 4 to 5 times a year. You get points for traveling to get yourself on the world ranking to qualify for more events. So competition is still going. Athletes are still traveling. Younger athletes are still finding ways to travel. We're athletes who train every day, who put in the same amount of sacrifice and training time to be at the highest level. So I don't know. It's a question, honestly, that I ask myself every day, because sometimes I stop myself and ask, like, why am I doing this? You know, we don't get cash prizes or anything really because we represent winning, being number one in the US, winning USA nationals, and winning continentals or worlds doesn't really give us anything.
Doesn't pay the bills.
It does not. It does not. But it always circles back to like, damn, I love this sport. You know, it always goes back to, I really like this. I really like training and pushing myself and competing. And whether that leads to good results or not, like I love using my platform to inspire, you know, the next generation coming up.
So what have been some of the biggest challenges you've faced as both a woman and an Asian American athlete?
You know, it's interesting. Again, when you're competing, when you're in it, you're just focused on training and executing and compete. It wasn't until later that I realized that there were lots of like hurdles that I have to go through to get to where I am. There were moments where I felt like I wasn't being recognized as an athlete. And it just goes back to, is it because I'm Asian American? Is it because I'm a woman? Is that the reason why I'm not, you know, recognized in certain places, if that makes any sense? So my mind was, let me get myself on the team, you know, like, let me just focus on myself and compete. And I realized that I can have a bigger impact, not just by staying in a little bubble, but doing something bigger.
This might be challenging because we're on a video interview.
Right.
But what are a couple keys that you have when it comes to self-defense for women? I think this is so important to know.
Right.
I travel by myself. I travel often. Like, I would have loved to learn from you. So
Right.
I don't know how it's possible to learn from you over video, but like, what tips do you have for girls and women when it comes to self-defense?
Oh my goodness. That's a really good question. I think it's important for women, like girls, like anybody, to feel confident, you know, and empowered to know that they have the ability to protect themselves. So I think, you know, starting from that And then that will slowly turn into, then, even when somebody walks up to you, at least you have the confidence that you can protect yourself from that mentality. Not because, okay, I know that I'm supposed to, like, you listen to grip by because I do this and this and this. Like, that's all muscle memory. But if you're hesitant, if you get scared, if you feel like you can't protect, if it starts from here, then it doesn't matter how much lessons you take.
Well, let's talk mental health really quick. How do you prioritize mental wellness in your training routine and being an elite athlete?
Karate has always been my way of keeping my mental health in check. When I go through the forms, it's like a form of meditation for me. It's what I realized later. When I was young, I did it because I thought I loved it, and I did love it. But there was always that little meditation side while we go through the forms. We focus on breathing, we focus on our body movement. And that's why I loved practicing karate, training. I think as an athlete, your mind is all over the place. It's constantly on the edge. It's constantly on high pressure, high stress situations. But I learned to kind of step back and, just do like a recheck every now and then.
Tell us about Fanded.
Yeah, for sure. So it's basically a platform where athletes, artists, people can engage with their fans. And for me, I always love mentoring kids. I always love connecting with fans. And there was never like a tool for me to use to consistently like give my same energy out to those people. But Fanded allows me to do so, where people can subscribe through that platform, and I can give like once a month mentorship. I can give out certain classes. They have an archive of videos about goal setting, about how to deal with losing, how to protect yourself, right? What can you do when this happens? Those are still in the works, but those are things that I wanted to provide. And this allows me to connect with the people that wants to support me. And that support will allow me to hopefully travel and compete and do more.
Okay, last question for you, Sakura. The name of the show is Good Follow, and we define Good Follow here as someone who moves culture forward and makes an impact within or adjacent to women's sports. It can be a coach, an athlete, a journalist, media member, influencer. It can be anyone. Mm-hmm. So who is your Good Follow?
My Good Follow is Naomi Osaka. I think she's doing an amazing job with her platform, not just as a female athlete, but as a mom, talking about mental health, culture, with fashion and everything. And she's always like true to herself, not being afraid of who she is and showing that on camera and in the public. So you're amazing, Naomi.
Well, Sakura, thank you so much for joining us. I feel like we could talk for a whole nother hour, and we're going to have a whole nother conversation. Absolutely. Not if, but when I go to Japan, you're going to have to give me all the recommendations.
Yes.
Welcome back to Good Follow. I recently learned Sakura means cherry blossoms in Japanese, which I find very beautiful. So thank you to Sakura for sitting down with us. It is now time for the marquee game of the week. And as we know, this weekend is the WNBA All-Star game. I have full faith in LaChina's predictions, and so I also made my own as well. I think Team USA will be in full Olympic form, so I'm picking them to win All-Star before heading off to Paris. And A'ja Wilson has won just about every award there is to win. I think it's time she also adds WNBA All-Star MVP to her resume. The most bet player to win All-Star MVP, A'ja leads the league in both points and rebounds per game. I'm expecting her to be on full display this weekend. These picks are brought to you by DraftKings. Visit sportsbook.draftkings.com or find the DraftKings Sportsbook wherever you get your apps.
And we want to hear from our fans. Who is your good follow?
Send us your nominations at Good Follow Show and tell us why your good follow should be featured.
Good Follow is brought to you by DraftKings. We will see you all next week.